Why do beekeepers keep bees? There are many people out there who manage honeybee colonies. Some of them are hobbyists, where they just like bees in general and how interesting that these bees might be, and they like learning more about them, and that's why they have them in their backyards. And there's others that have managed bees just for the purpose of helping out their gardens around their houses. There's also, besides hobbyist farmer or hobbyist beekeepers, there's also commercial farmers that might hire out a commercial beekeeper. A commercial beekeeper will then, after being hired, will lend off the beehives, their bee colonies, off to the farmer, and those hives will pollinate the crops there at the certain point of the year when their crops are in bloom. After that, the commercial beekeepers will then move their hives to another location where the next farmer may need them for other flowering crops. There's also the commercial beekeepers that produce different products out of resources that they get from their beehives. Some of these resources are anything from honey, beeswax, propolis, and pollen. Many of it has different benefits, and they try to produce it to have consumers buy it. Here are a few examples of some of the products that you can find at your local supermarket or local farmer's market that will have bee products in there. I was able to interview 2 beekeepers and ask them a few questions about beekeeping. Here's the following video on some of the questions that most people ask beekeepers. I hope you enjoy. All right, AJ, how long have you been beekeeping for?
I've been beekeeping for 4 years now.
Actually keeping bees 3 years. I think what really sparked my interest in being a beekeeper is my instinct as a master gardener, and interested in pollination and interested in all the things going on in my garden, and the opportunity to tie all those things together.
I got into beekeeping because I have apple trees and cherry trees out behind my house, and a friend, Dennis, who's part of the club, kind of got my interest going in getting bees for that, and he had a lot of fun with it, and that kind of poured over into my lap. So
I think I enjoy sharing the most because I'm a teacher by nature and by occupation, and when I'm passionate about something, I like to share it. I think there's a real hunger out there for people, an awareness of just really wanting to know more about pollinators. And I'll just be at Myers and I'll be wearing a t-shirt, or I'll have my little beekeeper cap or something like that. Somebody say, do you actually keep bees? And I end up having a 15-minute conversation in Myers in the middle of the produce section, and I end up giving them my card and say, this is when Muskegon area beekeepers meet.
the thing I like the most about beekeeping is getting out and working the bees and getting into the hives. Also all the people that you get to meet through the clubs.
The day I didn't pay attention to the bees, I was going down the row and it was getting ready to rain, and I had a job I wanted to do, and I did it with 6 hives, and there was one more hive to do, and I opened the lid and all the bees were looking at me. And common sense would say, this isn't a good time to open this box. You should just put the lid on and walk away. And instead I went forward and I got lit up like a Christmas tree. And I wasn't wearing pants. I was only wearing my veil and my jacket. And probably from my thighs down, I looked like a Christmas tree when I was done.
Some memorable moments of beekeeping would be learning that when a bee tries to sting you, their alarm pheromone smells like banana Laffy Taffy. And I never believed it until I've had bees try to sting me through my mask or getting stung in the face, and then understanding that that is absolutely true.
I think the most amazing thing about bees is how they have different jobs. But I don't know how they decide who's an undertaker bee and who's a forager and who's a nurse bee. And I don't know how they divide their society. There are water gathering bees, that's their only job. Propolis gathering bees are different than the ones that gather pollen and nectar. So to me, that's the most amazing world.
The bees never sleep. That is probably the most interesting thing that I have found about bees, is that they just work all the time, that they never sleep, and sounds a lot like my wife. Most wives, more likely.
A typical hive, well, when you get a package, you think you have 10,000 bees. By the end of the summer, you could have 40,000 bees.
During the height of the season, the typical hive, a healthy, strong hive, will probably be about 60 to 100,000 bees.
Most people have not been stung by a bee. And I must say this 1,000 times in a year. Oh, I was stung by a bee. No, you were probably stung by a yellow jacket or a wasp. And I'm the one that goes around and tells all the kids, when you see a honeybee on a flower or a bumblebee, she's just going to Myers, guys. She just wants to do her grocery shopping and go home. If you mess with her house, she's going to have a different attitude. But when you see her out on a flower, she's just going to Myers. Just leave her alone.
What I've experienced is the biggest misconception is the fact that you are going to get stung all the time. That bees are aggressive, and they absolutely are. They're very important for our food, for our grocery stores, and for the honey that they supply. And a lot of businesses want to be able to survive without pollinators.
Okay.
Spend a year before you get bees. Spend time learning, spend time talking to people, go to an apiary, spend some time with a beekeeper, and have a nice checkbook, because you're never prepared for how much money you really spend. And my husband said, how much money have you spent on bees this year? And I'll say, you know, I'm not going to do my taxes till February, so I really don't have any idea. I try not to add it up during the year.
Probably start beekeeping by joining a club, learning about bees, being a helper with another beekeeper, and then go ahead and buy your bees and your equipment. You don't have to have a whole lot of experience or knowledge. You need to know the basics about beekeeping and have the basic equipment.
To be a successful beekeeper, you have to have enough time and money to invest in at least 2 or 3 colonies. I think the worst thing a beekeeper can do is get a beehive for Mother's Day or a gift or something like that. If you don't have at least 2 or 3 colonies, you have no way to help a weak one. You have no way to know what's normal or what's not right. So if you can't get into it seriously, you should just get to know a beekeeper and help them. Well, there are lots of different ways. I think the best way is to find a local beekeeper in your area that may have some bonus bees, because these are bees that have already successfully foraged and overwintered in our climate, and genetically they've already proven that they have the right stuff to get through a Michigan winter if we treat them right. And so bees coming from California or bees coming from Georgia might be nice bees, but they're not from here.
You typically buy your bees, start out through buying packages or nucleus hives, and then if you're involved with the club, a lot of times you can buy bees from other club members, or they know how to get a hold of bees for you. Okay. Nucleus hive is a box of bees along with either 5 to 9 frames of drawn comb and a laying queen. A package of bees will consist of anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds of bees, which is 10,000 to 20,000 bees, along with a queen that is mated and ready to lay. However, there aren't any frames or brood or baby bees being produced in the colony as of yet.
It's time consuming at different times of the year. And we're into the dearth of beekeeping now. And so my girls are out and flying, but it's early November, and I know pretty soon they're gonna go in their boxes and I'm not gonna see them again till spring unless I happen to catch them on a cleansing flight on a sunny day in January. And so I've got to find something to do with my beekeeping time between now and spring, because this won't get serious again until March.
Mm-hmm.
So
when would you say is the busiest time of the year for beekeeping then?
well, 2 times. In the beginning, when you look and see what you've got and you've set up and you're trying, do I have the queen, and what is my mite treatment, what's my plan for the whole year? I found that once I made my plan for the whole year and executed it, it was simply a matter of, on this day I'm doing hives 1 through 5, and tomorrow I'm gonna do 6 through 10, and I was able to keep on a really good schedule.
It's not terribly time consuming. Probably the busiest time of year is honey extraction. On average, I would say a beekeeper could probably inspect a single hive once a week, and on average it's probably going to be about 10 minutes of work every week. I've gotten stung a lot, and the more I've gotten stung, the less I've noticed it.
Okay.
I've gotten used to it. So in a typical year, probably 30 times, 20 to 30 times.
When I get stung, it tends to be a self-inflicted wound. Now, in terms of getting lit up badly, like I told you I shouldn't have opened that box, they get stinky during the dearth. So I try and do as little as possible during the dearth. That's the only time I fully suit up and wear gloves and everything, is if I have to do something during the dearth. And I did have to replace a queen, and it was not pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was doing such a nice thing for them, and they didn't care.
Yeah, so it's mainly like working in the hive, like you said earlier in the interview, where you're messing with their home versus being out in the field necessarily.
Right. And in the spring, you use very little smoke, and sometimes I just wear a veil. But usually when I get stung, like I got stung today 3 times in the hand, totally self-inflicted wound. I could have walked into the bee shed, put on a glove, picked up that wooden spoon and stirred that beeswax full of bees that they were cleaning. But no, because I'd stirred it yesterday without a glove. So I stirred it, and I didn't have my hand on there for 2 seconds, and I got one there, and one there, just snap like that. So, and I thought, I'm doing such a nice thing for you. But I think they were getting to the end of the honey, and like during the dearth, I think they were a little stinkier.
Yep.
Because they could see there wasn't gobs of honey like there was yesterday. Now they were having to work for it, so they didn't appreciate me.
A healthy colony should be able to produce in a typical year anywhere from 80 to 100 pounds of honey, depending on what foraging, what is available for foraging around the hive. Some people may not be able to get that much, but others might get that much or more.
I have no idea how much honey they actually produce, because before I think about any honey that I would take off a particular colony, I would have to know how much resources they have, and that varies from year to year. But I would guess that I've gotten maybe 20 or 30 pounds off a hive, but I'm the more conservative person. I'm gonna leave more than I'm gonna take. why did you become a beekeeper, and how can you have bees in town?
Mm-hmm.
So people are surprised that I'm an urban beekeeper, that I live right in the city of North Muskegon, and I have, houses just feet away from my property line. And not only do people not mind, they love it that there's a secret garden in there. And so when I had my little honey shop and my apiary open house, I had neighbors who like to walk by with their dogs. I'm gonna leave my dog home, but can I come walk through your bee yard? And it was really cool.
Number one question I get is, how many times do you get stung?
One of the things that I really enjoy about beekeeping, well, I'll give you two things that I enjoy about beekeeping. One is that if you meet someone else who is a beekeeper, it's like you've known them forever. They are immediately your best friend. You have a conversation. That was what I enjoyed the most about the state conference, was not the sessions we attended, but all diverse people from Detroit, people from the Upper Peninsula, all the different people and their beekeeping. So I like that. And I like the fact that it's intergenerational. I have a mentee who's in 3rd grade this year, and he's very excited. Because of COVID, he didn't get to do a lot of the end of the season stuff, and he really misses it. And I said, but the great thing is, they'll be there next spring and we'll start all over again, and they're not going away. So yeah, we lost some time, but it's all there.
That's some pretty exciting information. I hope you learned a little bit more about bees and beekeeping. If you're still interested in learning more about beekeeping, in the link below in the video description, there is some resources that you can go to learn more about bees. We would like to thank our sponsor, the Gerber Foundation, for allowing us to make these videos.